And now, ladies and gentlemen of the old world, we're back in business once again with a showdown between the Sons of Sigmar and the Norscan. So it's going to be Volkmar the Grim facing off against Wulfric in this Troll Country showdown. Now, as far as my build goes here in the front, we're going to be coming in with some heavy metal here for Sigmar. So great swords, I actually do think have a pretty good application in this build. So most Norscan players aren't going to be bringing great weapons. A lot of the times Empire has Sigmar Sons, maybe some Flagellants, some State Troopers. So a lot of times you can really catch people off guard using the greatswords. With 95 armor, they're going to be incredibly durable against Berserkers and basic Marauders and can actually win some of those fights. And being able to win a frontline fight as the Empire is certainly a huge boon. So in total, we have two greatswords, including the Sigmar Sons here in the middle. Volkmar the Grim is going to be lending his heroic aid here to the front line with his mighty biting horses here on the front. I still think that's like one of the funniest things in the game, that the horses, like when Volkmar's like sitting head to head in combat with someone, he doesn't like attack or like have any like other animations. The horses literally are the only attack animation if he's not charging, and they just like nip at things. It's so funny. I guess each of those horses does more or less 120 weapon strength, which is pretty cool. And also, can you read those things? Like if I zoom in real close, I was wondering if you could like actually read those, that'd be pretty cool. But Volkmar is really good here. He also helps you win the infantry fight. He's a huge distraction Carnifex. If your opponent, wants to deal with him, oftentimes they'll chase him with like Wulfric and Famir and Skin Wolves and things like that. And even if they catch him, he's so damn durable with his armor and regeneration. And he can also punish the enemies for surrounding him with Soulfire Bombardment. He's just such a pain in the ass to deal with. I really think, yeah, him and Franz are by far the best lords, in my opinion, in this faction here. We got a light wizard because we are going to be going with quite a bit of powder. We have the handgunners and the silver bullets here in the back, and there are some big threats on Norsca, which can pretty much bunker bust through your front line via, mammoths and Famir. So having that net to lock them down in a really clutch moment when you don't have other defenses like cavalry in place can be the difference between winning and losing. We got spearmen on the flanks, Knights of the Blazing Sun, two of those because of their fire damage against Skin Wolves and magic resist against Famir, quite solid. And we have two Empire Knights as well. So now for the army of Hadres, he's coming in with Marauders in the front. Got a couple of Wolves. I think actually just one Norscan Ice Doggo. On top of that, Famir Warriors with great weapons. I believe there's going to be 3 in total. So plenty of anti-cavalry with those Famir. And he does also have Big Chungus Wulfric here. Seafang hurts quite a bit. And a Pendulum Caster with Enfeebling Foe. Pendulums did get nerfed pretty bad in the most recent patch. It's still not, terrible, but it's a pale reflection of what it once was. So here Wulfric's going to be, not Wulfric, Wulfric the Grim. Volkmar's going to be kind of parading about here. It looks like there's going to be a Pendulum. I partially dodge it. It still makes pretty good contact. And honestly, for a partial hit, that was some really solid damage. So very well played to Hadres there. He was able to get me pretty good. On top of that, look at the damage those Norscan Ice Wolves do on impacts against my Greatsword. So immediately my infantry really getting punished pretty bad. But this is kind of what, Volkmar's all about. You get surrounded, you bait out some abilities, and then you find a way to just kind of Tokyo drift out of that danger. You live long and you prosper, man. So greatswords are going to be coming in, Shield of Faith active, and the Soulfire Bombardment, you guys will see, will do some huge damage against the doggos. It should. Yeah, you can see the Norscan Ice Wolves get wrecked. So instantly we Karate Chop a 650 gold unit. Buy time for the greatswords, and Volkmar will take damage, but it's nothing he can't come back from. On top of that, Banishment's going to be going down here on top of the advancing Marauders, and we get a pretty good timing on those guys and really wreck them quite nicely. On top of that, Handgunners do go downtown and finish off these Famir Warriors with great weapons in tandem with the Knights of the Blazing Sun. And now Wulfric's trying to get into my back line. So we do pull back with these guns here, and we nut them down. And the powder of Sigmar sings once more in the deep, and Wulfric is going to be taking some big old damage from these handguns here. Certainly not from Volkmar, but Volkmar's just doing Volkmar things. Just rolling around, being annoying, lending his aid wherever he can. You can see here he's going to be helping to break those Berserkers. So far the greatswords haven't really gotten in combat too much, but they should be able to manhandle basic Marauders very, very easily. And so far, there's not really too much pressure coming from the flanks. There's no hounds or no other assets like that. So for the most part, I am able to just commit my knights defensively into the front line and help buffer out, because I am losing in some areas here. The spearmen on the flank get crushed by the Brutes of the Hound. Wulfric has been able to do big damage against Volkmar. I mean, it's yeah, of course he can heal, but you still don't want to be taking that much damage. So I have taken a couple of rough trades, more or less, but the big thing for me is the fact that my handgunners are sitting and shooting, and handgunners left unimpeded, man, they do some serious work for Sigmar. And you can see Wulfric is going to be wandering probably into the Shadow Realm if he keeps taking this kind of damage here. Now it looks like a Seafang's going to be going down, I think, or a Pendulum. That's a pretty nice Pendulum right there. Doesn't really kill too many models outright, but does a ton of HP damage, really kind of butters them up. For a single charge from that Mammoth, for example, would kill a ton of those guys. So we drop another net. The Mammoth looked like he was trying to kind of push through my ranks. The great swords are going to be committing to the front. And now, considering we have the mobile advantage and the flanks of his army were more or less crushed, the Knights of the Blazing Sun are going to be able to push in and start hammering the Famir. Granted, it's not the most cost-effective trade because Famir is so damn armored and also have anti-large, but still, you got to do something with those bad boys. Seafang going down here once again onto the handgunners. More damage, and it looks like these guys probably will be finally breaking from the barrage of magic. Blasting Scroll from the Light Wizard going down. A lot of people don't know that, but a lot of the, I think all the Empire Wizards have the option to bring a Blasting Scroll, which is like a Shem's Burning Gaze type ability that's bound. Pretty cool stuff for sure, and oftentimes it can, you know, snipe more so lightly armored characters, but in a pinch, it can take some HP off a big boy like him. Greatsword still fighting. The Brutes of the Hound seem to be trading pretty well, up to 41 kills there, and grinding down these Brutes, taking it like absolute champs. Both handgunners are routing, which is a little bit scary. Certainly gives Norsca a really solid fighting chance here. Despite Wulfric being down, Volkmar is not going to be able to kill, you know, Wulfric even with 2,000 HP. No, not much of a chance there. So I need to get my handgunners back online. Now, one thing that is certainly nice is that the Norscan army doesn't really have much mobility to follow up and chase down my handgunners. So aside from Wulfric, I should be able to get those guys back online. And greatswords do have, you know, good AP values. So even fighting against Famir with great weapons, they're going to be much better off than, you know, basic spearmen or state troopers and things like that. So handgunners are back, shooting at Wulfric. Every bit of HP counts, and the brave Empire Knights going to be running from Wulfric, deciding to charge into the back of the Famir, trying to break their leadership real quick here with the other Empire Knights and some of the infantry. The Faith is going down, baby. Grand Hammer of Sigmar and the Grand Shield of Faith giving a nice buff to this Empire Bastion. Light Wizard and company fighting pretty well here, able to grind through, but there's still a ton of Famir who, in a nice pendulum there by Hadri, is able to really tear through my Empire Knights and Spearmen, or blazing my Knights of the Blazing Sun. So yeah, it's a really, really close game here. I think if I can get Wulfric, I'll be able to pull ahead, but if he's able to get my handgunners off the battlefield, that could be a pretty disastrous situation here. So here come the 47 handgunners ripping some shots. He is at 1,300 HP, though his leadership is holding relatively firm. It looks like these silver bullets probably will be breaking off the edge. Maybe. It's a little bit hard to tell. Now back into the mainline combat. The greatswords and the cavalry are finally able to grind down most of the Famir. Volkmar did take a righteous beating in the process, but he still has plenty of room for his healing cap. And here is negative 14 Wulfric as the spearmen are able to pile in. And though he might be able to rally from this, not with the Knights of the Blazing Sun. And these brave sons and daughters, well, you know, I know they worship something else, but we'll just say of Sigmar. It's so thematic anyways. Volkmar the Grim fighting the good fight in here. You can see the Famir are getting terrified, and with that, the Norscan army is more or less in tatters and running off the battlefield here. And these Marauders, how many do we have of these bad boys? Looks like we got 46, and yeah, the steel. Greatswords are such a cool looking unit. I actually have a group of them for my Empire tabletop army. I really, really hope that when the old world comes back, we are able to use our old Warhammer Fantasy armies. Man, you know, because there's a lot of like rumor and discussion going around about the Games Workshop Old World game, which is basically the rebirth of Warhammer Fantasy, that it's going to be like a different scale, kind of like War Master, which honestly I wouldn't mind either. From a painting perspective, it's really easy to bang out a big army that way. But yeah, I'm really curious, man, because I have this army. It's like mostly unpainted. I've painted some Demograph Knights and some State Troopers and things like that, but for the most part, it's unpainted. And before I commit to going balls deep and like spending a lot of time painting that army with my wife, I want to make sure that's like the proper scale and I can actually use it. I know like characters like Franz. I do have Karl Franz on Deathclaw. I know he's not going to be in the game, you know, but I'd hope like his model could be used for like another, just like a General of the Empire or something. I don't know. We'll see. But anyways, rant is over for now. Well played to Hadri. Certainly, this is kind of my go-to build. I have a couple. Sometimes I use Franz. Sometimes I use, yeah. So basically my variants on this build, I'll use Franz and, you know, sometimes cut the greatswords, just get like flagellants, and then that allows you to get more state troopers and go a little bit wider. But a narrow elite build like this can work, and it works better with Volkmar because of how well he supports the greatswords. And though they didn't, you know, get their value back, that doesn't really matter. They took a ton of damage, and they also, you know, were fighting to the bitter end, and, you know, continued to fight. So they had more value to give, and that's really a big variable you have to consider. Handgunners were by far the MVPs though, 1,315, able to really focus down the Mammoth. Because aside from that, nothing in this army can really kill Wulfric. Like, for example, had the handgunners gotten shut down early, I probably would have lost the game. And that is the big flaw of this build in general, is that there's no like demi to really drag down a big target. There's no Franz, but it's very, very strong if you can protect your handgunners. It's kind of a, you know, a little bit rolling the dice, but we do also have the Light Wizard here who seemed to be pretty helpful with his nets. Empire Knights did their thing, man. They were jamming, they were partying like it was 1999. And for Hadri's, definitely dig his army. I think it's fine. You know, the one thing I like is a little bit more kind of backline pressure with Hounds. Like, because you saw my handgunners were completely exposed at several points in the game. Because his forward pressure was so good, I had to commit my Knights. Whereas at that point, when I commit my Knights to the frontline threats, that's when some Hounds can sneak in there and really shut down the handgunners. But that's just my opinion. This build certainly seems very functional and strong. But yeah, it was a good game. Well played. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this Empire vs. Norsca game. And guys, we will be back with more content soon. Take care, my friends.